Buff Metal back with another video. What is going on, guys? The topic of today's rant: black metal, nihilism, and finding purpose and power in the cosmos. What is going on, guys? Yeah, so today I wanted to try something a little different, lean more into the philosophy side of the buff metal stuff. You know, when I started this channel, that was a big part of my kind of thesis of the work, is linking metal and extreme metal, you know, to real life and everyday application. So I busted out some albums here. I got some black metal I want to talk about, you know, and one cassette as well, which we're going to get right into. 2 bands, that's it. We're going to keep it real simple today. And as we kind of talk about the motifs behind the band, I am going to kind of give my life philosophy on them. So without further ado, let's bring our first band into the mix here, starting with an album that I had thought I had lost but recently rediscovered that I own. Xasthur's Sigil of Blood and Trees. Now, you might not think that I am, you know, buff metal is a big Xasthur fan. Xasthur DSBM special, right? This is melancholic music, very, actually it's not very slow. This is still some pulverizing black metal, but I was very stoked to find that I still had this in my collection. Yeah, it's absolutely great. This came out back in 2017 or 18. And yeah, dude, this is limited 28 out of 100. And Xasthur, dude, you know, he's one of the OGs as far as DSBM goes, right? And so that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, is nihilism in black metal, you know? So one of the things that when you think of a band like this, you might think they are just, you know, very depressing, and that there's nothing about them that is really, you know, happy or powerful, right? Let's take a look at this J card while we're talking here. Yeah, and I kind of just wanted to kind of talk about that a bit. Really cool stuff, man. Look at that. So sick. Look at that awesome pick of the man. And this kind of brings me to my first point, is if you really think that black metal is, you know, just a soul draining, even DSBM, good DSBM is just soul draining, you know, music, I would like to argue that point and say that while this is nihilistic, it also, I find, is very empowering, right? And so there's 2 ways to take nihilism. And here, let's take a look at the tape. Yeah, this is really cool, man. This has some, I believe, the demo tracks, if I forget what album on it, I always forget, but I probably should have done a little more research. But I'm less of a dork and more of a guy who just likes the tunes for what they are. I'm not, you know, fiddling around too much on Metal Archives. Not that I don't, but I just, you know, don't too much. But the point is Xasthur, peak nihilism, right? If you ever seen that One Man Metal documentary, I actually made a whole video on that once because I love that documentary, you know. You will get the hint real quick that Xasthur is a pretty nihilistic dude, right? Let's talk about another one of his albums here while we're, you know, going through the discography. I have 3 by him. Here's kind of the quintessential: To Violate the Oblivious. It's not my favorite. My favorite I actually don't own, which is Telepathic with the Deceased. But yeah, To Violate the Oblivious. Yeah, it's just an absolutely incredible album. By the way, this one, dude, funny story. This was just sitting for a discount. It was in the discount bin for a damaged LP. And yeah, dude, so it was $10. I had to grab it. I was like, what is this doing? And yeah, it's in rough shape, but the vinyl themselves are actually doing all right. It seemed like this thing went through a hurricane or something, you know, but yeah, really, really powerful music here. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to about Xasthur and nihilism. If you are, you know, kind of a nihilistic black metal fan, I would say that the power underlining the music like this, how can that be considered fully anti-human, you know, life or whatever? You know, I find that anything that has power, positive charge, things that give off good energy, even if it's not necessarily good energy, I would say it's energy nonetheless. It's powerful for sure, you know, Xasthur's music. And that's something that I think about. You know, it's kind of funny. I almost find it to be a little bit of a contradiction that exists within some of this really nihilistic music, because when I listen to it, when I listen to some of the music of Xasthur, I don't necessarily feel nihilistic. I mean, I find this stuff to be very absurdly heavy and powerful. And the drums, dude, I always thought Xasthur was just, he's a phenomenal drummer. He's also a phenomenal guitar player, man. There's a lot of the best of his work you can find on here. But nihilism, especially black metal nihilism, I find to be more rooted in power. And, there's a lot of anti-human stuff, but not for nothing. Yeah, man, people suck. That's a given, right? But who cares about people? Who's worried about other people, Focus on the self, what you can do. If you're really into black metal, maybe consider making your own, you know what I mean, and finding purpose. I would argue that someone like Xasthur, has found his purpose in making music like this, you know what I'm saying? Music that, speaks to people, and makes people, even if it's not necessarily the lyrical content, it may as well just be the vibe and the aura, right? There's an aura of power about a lot of Xasthur's music. And nihilism, dude, is interesting, man, because you can take it two ways, right? There's the positive nihilism and the negative nihilism. Negative nihilism is really when, you embrace that the world is pointless, and so you're self-destructive, right? You don't care about life. F it, fuck it all, I will have nothing to do with other human beings. I am just a basement dwelling dork. I don't want to have, and dude, not for nothing, I almost see it. I understand how people can wind up in that spot in life. But also, there is the other end of nihilism, which is positive nihilism, right? Where we can kind of look at the world as, yes, being pointless, but in the pointlessness, you can find your purpose. Because imagine if you already had a purpose planned out for you, you know what I mean? If there was something to this whole thing, then you'd have to do this, that, or the other thing. But instead, no, man, the world may be void of meaning, but at the same time, you kind of get free in that, It's almost like the Tyler Durden quote in Fight Club when he's like, I always think of when he's like, just let go, when they're driving the car, And I think what he's getting at in that scene is that your attachments and stuff like that, maybe it all just is a distraction, and what you really need to do is be free of all the things that you think, are holding you back from whatever in life. And I almost can see that nihilism can be a positive in that respect, I certainly choose to view it that way. One more album from Xasthur here. This is Nocturnal Poisoning, signed by the man himself. Look at that. Very, very great album here. This actually might be in the running for one of my favorites. You got a Mutilation cover on here too of Black Imperial Blood. But all the regular Xasthur tracks are absolutely phenomenal. And man, this album, yeah, it's always been one of my favorites in my collection, especially because it's signed. I don't remember how I got it signed. It was mailed to me. I think I just... he was selling these copies personally, and I think I just emailed him and requested it, and there you go. And I find these characters like him, who seem to be very tortured people, to kind of be inspiring in a way, you know what I mean? Where it's like, no matter what it is that they're going through in life or whatever, they always seem to have music somewhere in the center. And I guess that's an outlet for expressing power, right? Like having power somewhere. And I think all human beings, whether they know it or not, are in some kind of pursuit of power, Everyone wants to feel like a powerful human being. This is why I always recommend fitness and working out and stuff like that, is because I think that is a great way to kind of channel that. And, in a world, the cosmos that are violent and filled with negativity and the chaos of human emotion and stuff like that, it's very, can be hard to find your purpose or your meaning in life. And again, this brings us back to that kind of nihilism thing. So I can see why people get sucked in. But I would argue that what it's really about at the end of the day is trying to find power within the cosmos, you know what I mean? And this kind of brings us to our second band here, one of my favorite black metal bands of all time, who I believe they're like the thesis of their work seems to hark on this subject quite a bit. That's Inquisition. You want to talk about really powerful black metal, man. Inquisition to me is that. You listen to this and it just sounds like Luciferian power, you know what I'm saying? Stuff that really cuts to the core of basically just that deep, dark powers and stuff like that, but channeling them. And look at this, man. This is their debut, Into the Infernal Regions of the Ancient Cult. I always love that album cover, but when you open it up, it's even cooler, man. Look at that. You get the original album cover on this side. The band there, and it's just so classic and satanic and stuff like that. But even I think from the satanic perspective, I think the whole point is to, one, not be a fool, and to be powerful, and to express your power, do what thou wilt, and all that, all that. But the point I guess I'm trying to make is, maybe in the darkness, try and find power. Yes, like there's no meaning to anything, but there is a vibe and auras and stuff like that. And I think that's what I chase a lot, especially in music. So you could take either Xasthar or Inquisition and make the argument that, well, yeah, sure, this is black metal and it may be nihilistic towards humans. I think at its core, I do think that it's empowering, you know what I'm saying? And I think what we all need to do is find something that feels a little empowering to all of us, and one more album of like cosmic force that I have here from Inquisition, my favorite of all time, is Black Mass for a Mass Grave. Such an awesome album cover, and I'm not a big picture disc guy, but these are the coolest goddamn picture discs I have ever seen, hands down, so... yeah, dude, look at that. And then the back one, so he's got a Glock, I think. Is it a Glock? Yeah. Dude, so sick, man. But I always liked that side of Inquisition where they seem to be a band that is all about cosmic power, you know what I mean? And dude, if there is nothing else to chase in life, maybe that should be your one thing, you know what I'm saying? Find something where you feel like you can maybe distribute that power. And I think that music is really the most effective means of doing so. You know what I'm saying? I love me some good motivational talks and 80s movies, dude, before this channel and stuff like that. But even sometimes during, I still really get into a few motivational speakers. I like some of the great bodybuilders like Tom Platz and stuff like that. And if I need that oomph, that energy, I'll watch some of their videos or, stuff like that. David Goggins, I used to be really into. But the point is that these guys kind of want you to embrace and bring out the potential and the power within, you know what I mean? And that feels very metal to me. There's something about metal, and especially in the extreme form, right? Where I feel like it's embracing the absurdity of existence and maybe even the meaninglessness at times, and it's channeling it into this great cosmic, I don't want to say joke, but, thing that is extreme metal, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's very powerful, and it's one of the coolest things about the human experience is to find art that kind of reflects these niche kind of aspects of life, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, in summary, I'll say that if you tend to believe the Xasthar angle and are nihilistic, maybe channel that to some positive nihilism. Yes, maybe the world is useless, but even if you hate people and you're a total misanthrope, there's a quote from the man Scott himself, where in that one man black metal documentary, he kind of says he hates people and hates talking to people, but every once in a while he'll find someone who is like-minded, and it makes him stop and kind of pause and realize like, oh wow, this is a really cool experience to share, a cool moment like this, a like-minded moment with another human being. And if everyone was like that, maybe it wouldn't be as powerful. So yeah, is it a horde of zombies out there? Maybe, but I don't know, man, channel the power, right? Do what you can to kind of embrace the absurdity and the meaninglessness and turn it into power, self-empowerment, and find reasons to keep yourself going and at it. So that's it. That's my spiel for the day. I hope this video finds you well. Go check out Inquisition and Xasthar if you haven't. Really powerful black metal, and channel that power within, man. It's in there. And if you need help with that, I'm starting my personal training business up soon. Cheapest on the block, and I'll get more into that later. But anyways, guys, ow.